Okay.
Thank you.
Greetings from Athens. Thank you very much for inviting me and my precious colleague, Professor Eleni Konsolaki. We are both instructors at the American College of Greece, the Department of Psychology. Today, I will be the presenter because my colleague is in the classroom teaching. So I will be presenting data from one of our studies. I am an assistant professor, and my scientific discipline is clinical and cognitive neuropsychology. I will be reporting data derived from an archival research study on the effectiveness of the role play, a scenario-based assessment strategy in an undergraduate module in history and systems of psychology. Me and my colleague decided to redesign this module and trying to bring together recent insights offered in the literature. We saw that there was evidence of impact with regards to the use of scenarios, especially in historical as well as in clinical courses. The scenarios cover a diversity of methods and techniques, and a prominent one is the role play, the effectiveness of which was explored in our study. So I will give you some information about the background. It is theory-driven and evidence-based. Scenario-based learning, or SBL, is an open and adaptable educational approach with solid pedagogical justification in multiple areas in which learners practice their skills in a true-to-life simulated context. SBL is an active form of learning. Active learning is student-centered as opposed to content-centered instruction, is controlled by students, and facilitates self-discovery of knowledge. The use of scenarios can promote problem-based learning, an approach which actively engages students in applying existing knowledge to solve problems encountered in everyday life. SBL requires, but it also enhances problem-solving ability, storytelling, self-reflective writing skills, imagination and creativity, as well as transferable skills. Scenario-based learning aims to create plausible sets of narrative alternatives, thus helping learners to challenge the present status quo of theories, belief systems, practices, and interventions. It can also resolve uncertainty because through challenging existing ideas, it prepares learners for any form of disruption, such as the recent pandemic, terrorist attacks, the rise of mental illness, but also globalization and its impact, as well as intrusion of the AI tools. It also aims to increase awareness, thus preparing for an uncertain future with regards to the impact of major issues in humanity, such as serious illness, social inequality, life transitions. SBL helps learners explore long-term developments. And the last but not least, it aims to expand knowledge and understanding of theory and applications, helping learners to test the robustness of different perspectives or solutions to problems against multiple possible situations or futures. I would like to add here that scenarios are hypothetical sequences of events generating alternatives based on unique narratives. They are not forecasts, but possible future outcomes. Scenarios foster reflection and consideration of how to bridge differences. They facilitate paradigm shifting and help learners avoid tunnel vision. More specifically, psychology applied learning scenarios are an adaptation of problem-based learning using hypothetical case studies that represent situations which professional psychologists typically face. Just a note about who proposed that definition. This is Lynn Norden, who is a professor emerita of pedagogical research at the Liverpool Hope University College and the author of many articles and books on problem-based learning in psychology and education. Scenarios or vignettes are not new in teaching and assessment, but what PULSE offers is a rationale for their use. It should be stressed that PALS can be used in a number of psychology courses where application of theory is key. This is the rationale. The rationale for using PALS, laid down by Lynn Norton, is to develop and practice skills such as critical thinking or independent thinking, evidence-based reasoning, decision-making, and of course, to comprehend and apply methods, techniques, and procedures needed to handle subject-specific knowledge. Here you see the two concepts, the two areas, problem-based learning versus problem-solving learning. The PALS is about here, as you see. It is in this framework. The core idea is that there is no single correct answer, while in this framework, the problem-solving learning, a solution has to be found. In a PALS context, students come to understand that different approaches to the issues raised derive from different theoretical perspectives, which are adopted, and this facilitates critical thinking of theory and a better understanding of the contingent nature of knowledge. Let me add here that scientific paradigms, perspectives, solutions, ideologies are social constructions and culture-specific. There is great opportunity to teach students contemporary perspectives such as constructivism or constructionism, and that realities are many in favor of a creative synthesis. Some more information on the pedagogical justification of PALS. To Lynn Norton, the pedagogical significance of PALS is to understand, as I said, the contingent nature of knowledge towards the development of a creative synthesis and make what King and Kitchener refer to as reflective judgments. By this, they mean a form of advanced thinking which reflects epistemic assumptions that our understandings of the world are not given, but must be actively constructed by understanding knowledge in the context in which it was generated. In our case, in our study, in the context of our course, we said to the students that writing a role play, they should try to reflect or debate on a problem that is not easy and that it does not require a specific solution. Finally, another justification comes from John Biggs, advocating the importance of constructive alignment, by which the author means setting up a learning environment where the activities of the students align with intended learning outcomes. Here you see the advantages of the role play as a scenario-based assessment strategy. The role play as a problem-based type of assessment enables students to put into practice several elements of the module and apply their theoretical understanding in a way that is engaging, it stimulates curiosity, it resolves uncertainty, and it gives more power and efficacy in the learning situation and in the assessment of the material, allowing for plausible sets of narrative alternatives. As assessment strategy, the role play can make, and I think it did in our case, the taught material come alive, adding a sense of realism and meaning. Considering this background, we decided to design a role play assessment in the context of the history and systems of psychology. Our aims were to assess knowledge and understanding of historical landmarks, of movements, of perspectives, to encourage the synthesis of ideas or perspectives, to promote independent thinking, and also to trigger an application of theory or theories in a contemporary context, exemplifying the relevancy of psychological debates in the here and now. All these points were incorporated into the marking scheme sent to the students prior to the role play assessment. So a scenario was presented, based on which students had to write a role play report to demonstrate knowledge and application of either one or two theories in a monologue or in a dialogue context, respectively. Our rationale designing this assessment was students to build on their prior knowledge of psychological theories and apply them to solve a contemporary or an everlasting problem, either with drastic measures, if that was possible, or to find a creative middle path. So now I will show you some themes, some topics. In the first part, you see the monologue context. These are two of the past themes we have used. I will read the first one for you. This was in the context of the nature-nurture controversy, survival in a diverse work environment, past and current trends. These are two different topics. I will read the first one. I am Charles Darwin, a genuine democrat and the author of the theory of evolution by means of natural selection. And these are my theory and principles explaining human diversity and successful adaptation in a multinational and a multicultural work environment. The other topic is about Francis Galton. In a dialogue context, I give you here two past themes. I will read the first one. Franz Joseph Gall meets Pierre-Paul Broca and they discuss the origins of modern neuroscience. Franz Joseph Gall, the father of phrenology, and Paul Broca, the renowned French anatomist who established the clinical method, ran into each other at the Warren Anatomical Museum in Boston, USA, in front of the portrait of Phineas Gage. Commenting on the nature of Gage's brain damage, the two scientists outline the main assumptions of their approaches and compare their methodologies in the study of brain behavior interactions. There is another one, as you see, about Sigmund Freud and Carl Rogers. With regards to our sample, following approval from our institutional review board, we conducted an archival research on student grades, submitted to the grading system between fall 2019 and fall 2023, including all academic terms, regular and intensive ones. A total number of 461 students were reviewed. We established certain inclusion and exclusion criteria. I'm afraid there is no time to go into this right now. And the final sample size of students tested was 425 students. We used the SPSS version 29 form for statistical analysis. And you also see the tests which were used: independent sample t-tests, the Pearson correlation analysis, and simple regression analysis. The grades from both the role play and the final exam were reviewed for the aforementioned period, and we considered two formats of the role play and all the responses from a standard short essay exam. The names of the students, of course, could not be identified. I will show you some graphs. Here you see, this is a general finding, and that this was that student performance in the dialogue format was superior, with an average above B+, to the monologue format where the average was B. Here you see that the difference in performance between formats was not attributed to the academic term when the course was offered. So the two formats, the difference was persistent, and the academic term was not an explanation. The same here. The difference in performance between the formats was not attributed to course instructor. And the same here. Lecture time could not explain the difference between the two formats. Again, the dialogue had supremacy over the monologue. I will also show you two regression analyses. This is the first one. The role play proves to be a good predictor of the final exam grades. You can see the R-square here, which is low, meaning that probably additional factors could explain the variance, that is the performance in the final exam. One of the factors, one of the explanations probably was that the two assessments had different learning outcomes. And one more, this is also regression analysis. Both formats proved to be good predictors of final exam grades. I will summarize the results. Student performance in the dialogue format was superior compared to performance in the monologue format that was most profound. The performance difference between the two role-play formats was consistently independent upon the term of study, the lecture time, whether it was a morning class or an afternoon class, as well as the course instructor. The role-play performance, independently upon format, was found to be a significant predictor, yet not the only one, of final exam grades. And finally, no statistical difference was found between formats, both predicting performance in the traditional short essay final exam. Both were very good predictors. So we are concluding that role plays in a dialogue context can constitute a solid ground for development of transferable skills in the context of history of psychology in an undergraduate level. Added to that, the present findings confirm previous research on the gravity of scenario-based assessments and extend their utility in non-clinical contexts where experience-based practices can potentially increase creativity, active problem solving, and critical thinking, thus adding a sense of realism into the learning experience. And these were our results. Thank you very much.